Today, we're going to discuss Toronto's exciting new multiplex housing policy, allowing detached, semi-detached, and even townhomes across the entire city to be converted into 4 separate legal units. In many cases, you can even add in a garden suite or laneway home, turning it into 5 units in total. So we're going to get into the rules and regulations, special considerations, and even cover what kinds of properties are ideal for this type of conversion. So you definitely should watch this video until the very end. So let's dive right in. Welcome back. Thanks for watching Manny from Suite Editions, where we help investors and homeowners create more housing and generate wealth. We would really appreciate it if you can hit the like button and please subscribe to this channel. Additionally, we're currently putting together a comprehensive in-person training program covering in detail the principles, strategies, and tactics as part of the Max Suite strategy. We'll share more info at the end of this video, and you can also check it out at suiteeditions.com/training. Okay, so here we are in the backyard of our single-family home on the Danforth in Toronto, where we intend to convert this property to 4 individual units plus a garden suite. On May 10th of this year, City Council adopted the zoning bylaw amendment to permit multiplexes citywide. So this is part of the city's EHON initiative, which stands for Expanding Housing Options in Neighborhoods. So this initiative is an integral part of Toronto's City Planning Division to encourage more missing middle housing options across the city. Now, as we know, the vast majority of Toronto's residential land is currently occupied by low-density, single-family housing, categorized as neighborhoods, also known as the Yellow Belt. Instead of only building high-rise towers in the already dense corridors of the city or sprawling out further with more single-family homes, it makes a lot of sense to turn some of the existing low-rise residential housing into small multi-unit buildings. And 4 units, as of right, is a very reasonable number, and this means that as long as you are able to remain within the rules of the bylaws, you will not be required to obtain any special permission with a minor variance, so your neighbors have no say in the matter. Of course, if you own a single-family lot in Toronto, no one says that you must build a multiplex, but you cannot stop your neighbors from doing so. So the number of benefits of this new policy are tremendous. And of course, it will provide many, many more housing units onto the market, which is what we desperately need, especially with all the new residents coming into the big city. Many large extended families will be able to benefit from this, pooling the resources to convert a large single-family home into multiple units and allowing for each party to have their own private space. It will allow for people to offset some of their mortgage and home ownership expenses by renting out a portion of their house and thus providing more rental stock. Now, for those enterprising house hackers out there who have the capital and skill set to convert a single home into 4 or 5 units, live in 1 unit and rent out the rest, they might even be able to effectively live for free while owning an incredible long-term asset. There are also creative new co-ownership models now available to allow folks to get into the housing market. So this is definitely an opportunity for many younger people who feel they're priced out of the market. And of course, this is great for investors who wish to get into the smaller scale developments with lower risk, since there's no special permission requirements and possibly no minor variances. There's huge potential here for profits that can be scaled across the city and at the same time will benefit our communities. This is the perfect policy for homeowners and small-scale developers. Okay, so now that we've discussed what the policy is and all agree that it's beneficial, let's get into the requirements. Before we get into it, we'd like to put a disclaimer that you should not rely on the information in this video to make any real estate transaction decisions or rely on it for planning your multiplex. Each property is unique and you must contact the city to get verification and hire a professional to look at your specific property. As mentioned earlier, this policy is geared towards the neighborhood zone, specifically RD, residential detached, RS, residential semi-detached, RT, residential townhouse, as well as the R zone, residential, which are typically already higher in density and had previously permitted up to 3 units. So let's first discuss size. So this is going to vary depending on each specific lot, so you should check the zoning map. Link to that is in the description below. In many cases, the length of the main structure can be as deep as 17 meters or approximately 55 feet, and in some cases 19 meters or roughly 62 feet. In terms of the height, many areas allow up to 9 to 11 meters, which is roughly 29 to 36 feet, which potentially can allow for up to 3 stories. Now let's talk about setbacks. In terms of setbacks, the minimum side yard setback can range between 0.6 meters to 1.5 meters, which is approximately 2 to 5 feet, depending on the lot frontage. Next, let's discuss floor space index, also known as FSI. This is the ratio between the gross floor area of the building compared with the lot area of the property. Traditionally, many neighborhoods had an FSI of 0.6, which meant that the gross floor area cannot exceed 60% of the total lot area. However, this has been removed for multiplexes, which means that there are no maximums for gross floor areas as long as you're able to comply with the other bylaws outlined. Next, let's talk about parking, which can potentially be a deal breaker for many conversion projects. Under the new policy, parking spaces may be reduced if the driveway in the front yard is converted to landscaping. We do know that if you also build a garden suite or laneway suite in the rear, all parking requirements are removed except for 2 bicycle parking spaces. This is a highlight of some of the Toronto bylaws around multiplexes. Keep in mind that this is based on conversions of structures that existed legally prior to the passing of the bylaw. Newly built structures are going to have different requirements. We strongly recommend that you read the bylaws for multiplexes in detail in the link below if you're interested. Additionally, if you have a property you would like to convert to a multiplex, we highly recommend putting together some basic plans and sending it in for a zoning applicable law certificate. There's a fee associated with doing this, and you may need to hire an architect or designer to assist with this process, but it will help identify all bylaw compliance issues before you go too far into the design process and end up spending thousands just to realize that your plan may not work. Now, you might be wondering, in addition to all the renovation costs and city permitting fees, what am I going to end up paying in development charges? Well, you'll be pleasantly surprised that for a conversion project, you're now potentially exempt from development charges for up to 4 units. This is the city's way to encourage more homeowners and small developers to get involved in this small-scale missing middle housing. Now we're going to shift gears away from the city bylaws and discuss other aspects of converting to a multiplex. Let's talk a bit about the business side of things. Now, you may know that a 4-unit building is still considered residential from the lending standpoint, whereas 5 units may be considered commercial financing. This is interesting because if we're able to also add in a garden suite or laneway suite by building a new one or converting an existing garage, then we may qualify under a commercial lending program. The advantage of a commercial loan is that the lender typically looks less at the credentials of the borrower and more at the asset itself, as in how much revenue that property can generate to cover the mortgage loan. We definitely recommend that you work with a mortgage broker who has experience with multi-unit financing to get more information. Next, we'll touch briefly on some more creative options with multi-unit conversions. There may be an opportunity to turn the individual units into condos that can be sold individually. This is a complicated process, and it involves additional legal structuring and creating a condo corporation that can manage the entire property. Additionally, there are co-ownership opportunities as well, allowing multiple parties to hold a joint venture together into the property and live in it at the same time. This works well for multiple extended families or groups of friends. A local company called GoCo Solutions helps to facilitate this process. Now, let's jump into some special considerations when you're performing a multiplex conversion. It's important to understand that a multi-unit is different from a house. 2 units and under, which is very common with basement second suites, is still considered a house according to the Ontario Building Code, whereas anything that is 3 units and up is considered a small building and therefore has a different treatment. We'll be doing a detailed deep dive into this in an upcoming video, but for a bit of context, here are some key differences. Code requirements for small buildings are more stringent compared with houses when it comes to fire separation, entrances and egresses, ceiling heights, as well as heating and ventilation requirements, just to name a few. It's important to know these differences when you're trying to identify whether a property is ideal for a multiplex conversion. Again, we'll be doing a detailed video outlining this very soon. Of course, you want to have as large a lot as possible in order to create a comfortable site and outdoor amenity space as well for each individual unit. Now, to conclude this video, we'll go through some sample housing types that are suitable for 3 and 4 unit multiplex conversions. You may have seen many of these types of configurations around. We'll start first with some 3-unit options. You may have a 2-story home where 1 unit is in the basement, 1 unit is on the main floor, and the last unit is on the second floor. Perhaps you have a large single-story bungalow where you have the main unit on the first floor and 2 smaller units in the basement. In some instances, you may have a large attached garage that you can convert to a 3rd unit. Now, let's look at the possibility of converting an existing house to 4 units. If you have a large 3-story home with a basement as well, for 4 levels in total, then 4 individual 2-bedroom suites could be an ideal setup. We may even be able to convert a single-family bungalow into 4 small units with a vertical fire separation, having 2 units on the first floor and 2 units in the basement. You can also expand an existing home with a larger footprint and convert it into 4 units. The first 2 units can be in the existing house, and the third and fourth unit can be on the main floor and basement of this new addition. Of course, there are many other configuration options, but we've just touched on a few. Okay, so we've completed our summary of the new Toronto multiplex policy and outlined some of the ways that you can take advantage of it. We truly believe that this is the start of a transformation of our city to create better communities through missing middle housing, with multiplex conversions and garden suites playing a big role. This will also be instrumental in creating desirable living arrangements for large families, allow friends and families to pool resources, and empower people who were unable to access home ownership to be able to do so. And if you're a small-scale investor or developer, it offers great opportunities for you to profit from this trend. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Do you think that multiplex conversions are going to take off in the city? Are you interested in starting your own project? Please share them in the comments below. Again, we're putting together an in-person comprehensive training program on implementing the Max strategy, which is going to be incredibly relevant to multiplexes in Toronto. The training will be packed full of practical, detailed information and case studies. If you're interested, please go to sweetadditions.com/training to apply, and we'll give you more details about the training. In the meantime, we hope to see you create more housing and generate lasting wealth. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. To learn more about the Max Suite strategy, download our free guides at sweetadditions.com and get started. And if you enjoyed this video, here's another great one for you.